In this video, I'll show you how to create a custom GPT-4 powered chatbot that can respond to tweets, questions, really any textual data, and in any format or personality that you like. So you can create a fully custom chatbot here that is fully your own and is completely different than anything that I might make or anyone else watching this video. So let me give you a quick demo of an example of a live chatbot that's kind of using the strategy that we're going to deploy in this video, and you'll get a sense for what I mean. So you can see that there's a Twitter account here called Snoopstein. Now, this is a chatbot. This is not someone actively running the account, and anytime you tweet at this account or hashtag the name, so Snoopstein, it automatically responds to your comment. Now, if we look here, we can see that we have some tweets. So for example, you can see he's responding to someone, dear whoever tweeted at him, yo, listen up, it's time to feast, whatever this is, Jacardi munchin on a Chick-fil-A, a mini breakfast beast, etc. I'm not going to read through all of the tweets. They're kind of funny, but this chatbot is in the kind of personality of Albert Einstein combined with Snoop Dogg. So you get the knowledge of Einstein, but kind of the rhyming and responses that Snoop Dogg might have. And this is just a very simple example of the type of chatbot you could create. You could do ones in different kinds of personalities. You could have ones that are answering as if they're living in like the 1500s or as if they're an alien. You can do really interesting stuff here. Obviously, you don't have to host it on Twitter, but if you want to mess with this existing chatbot, then just go to this Twitter account at Snoop_Steen, tweet at it or hashtag the name, and then it will actually automatically respond to you within a few minutes. All right, so that's kind of an example of what we're going to be making. Again, you could host your chatbot wherever you want. Once you have it, it's super easy to use it, and you can kind of put it in any format that you like. So before we go any further, I'll quickly mention that I'm going to be following this guide right here, which is actually the people that created the Snoopstein chatbot. This walks you through everything you need to do to create the chatbot as well as to host it on Twitter. I'm not going to host it on Twitter in this video, but I'll show you everything in terms of getting the chatbot up and running, using the chatbot, querying the chatbot responses, and then you can deploy it how you see fit. So if you want to follow the guide, click the link in the description. And now let's move on to step one, where we start creating this bot. So for this video, I am going to be using a platform called MindsDB. Now, MindsDB allows you to import your existing data into their platform and train machine learning models quite literally in the matter of seconds using SQL syntax. Now, I'm going to explain more about how this works, but I do need to disclose that I am partnered with MindsDB. They have sponsored this video. However, this is completely free. I'm not trying to sell you anything. This really is just a revolutionary platform, something that I've never seen before. And I wanted to show it to you guys because I know you can get a ton of value and very quickly actually use AI models that before might have been a bit intimidating to you. So with MindsDB, as I was saying, you import your data and then you write some SQL syntax, which I know sounds really strange. I'll explain that to you more in a second, that actually creates what's known as an AI table for you. Now, this AI table acts just like a normal database table and allows you to use normal SQL queries, like select whatever field you want from this table to get predictions and to use your machine learning model. And then you can connect to this SQL database just like you would connect to any other SQL database and use it from a front end, from a back end, from any kind of project that you want, which I'm going to show you later in the video. So if I scroll down here, you can see that this is what's required to create a model. Create model sentiment classifier, predict sentiment using this engine, task, model name, input column, etc. That's it. You just pick the model you want, already built into MindsDB. It will then train based on the data that you pass it. Then you will have an AI table, and then you use that AI table to make predictions. Here, if we look at time series, again, you can see obviously we can adjust the different input data and different parameters for the model. You can get as complicated or as simple as you want, but I'm going to show you that we're literally going to make this GPT-4 model in like 2 or 3 SQL statements. Now, obviously, you can integrate with all your existing data too. If you're not making a chatbot, you might be making something else. So like, MySQL, Oracle, OpenAI, you have MongoDB, really any data source, even Google Sheets, you can kind of import into MindsDB and start messing with. All right, so that's enough of kind of the explanation of this platform. Let's dive in. The first thing we need to do is create an account. So I already have one. I'm just going to sign in. For you guys, just go to this website, mindsdb.com, create a new account, and then you'll be brought into this cloud editor where we'll start working. All right, so after you've created an account and gone through the setup steps, you should be brought to a page here where you have a demo instance. Now I'm going to click into mine here. Obviously, you can create other ones if you upgrade to Pro, but you don't need to do that for this video. And you can see that you have kind of a built-in SQL editor here. And I'll zoom in a little bit just so it's easier to read. We can get rid of kind of the learning hub on the side. Now, this is where we can write all of our SQL as well as connect to different databases and start creating our models. So on the left-hand side, you can see that we already have two databases. We have the MindsDB database and then the files database, which doesn't have anything inside of it currently, which is fine. Now, what we can do is connect to different data sources by going to add data, and we can connect to MongoDB, MySQL, Postgres, etc. There's a ton of different data sources we have access to, and then we can add different machine learning models here if we want. Now, we're not going to do that. That's a bit more advanced. What we're going to do is just use existing models here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is just show you how to create a basic machine learning model. Then we will continue and improve it and make it better. So I'm going to paste in a block of code here. I'll explain this to you, but feel free to pause the video and type it out, or you can go to the link in the description for the guide that I'm following for this video, and it will have this exact same code. So it says, create model, mindsdb.gpt_model. We're predicting a response, so that's kind of the output column we're going to get, using the engine of OpenAI, the model name of GPT-4, and then the prompt template. Now, the prompt template is essentially telling us what kind of data we need to feed to the model when we're making a prediction and how we're going to respond to it. So we're saying we want to respond to some kind of text, which is a variable we're going to have to pass when we make a prediction, by the author username, which again is another variable. Very, very simple. I'm going to show you how this works in 1 second. For now, though, let's simply run the code. Now, notice here that you don't have to pass any API key or anything like that. By default, when you're using this demo instance, it's automatically going to have an API key for OpenAI for you, which gives you access to GPT-4, which is currently under kind of early release. So you can see here that we get GPT model, OpenAI, MindsDB. We can see that it's currently generating. And if we want to check the status of this model, then we can type in the following line. I think I'm just going to have to fix this a little bit. So select asterisk from MindsDB model, where the name equals GPT model. If I run this, then notice that I get the status is complete. Okay, so I'm just querying essentially the model we just created. Now, if we go here to MindsDB, this database, you can see that inside of here, we now have an AI table, which is our GPT model. And now we can query this GPT model just like we would query any normal table, and we will be able to get a response from it. So to do that, we're going to use the following line. Let me copy this in here. So select response from mindsdb.gpt_model, where the author username is equal to MindsDB. You could obviously change this. Maybe we'll do tech with Tim. And the text is, why is gravity so different on the sun? Again, you can change that to whatever you want, and you're just going to get a GPT-4 generated response. So let's run this. And we can see here that it's going to take a few seconds. This is because right now OpenAI is heavily rate limited, so it could take 10, 20, 30 seconds to get a response. Obviously, later on, this should be faster. And if you passed your own API key, it should be a bit quicker than using the default one. Regardless, you can see that we've queried the response, right? Selecting the response. So now we get a column, which is our response, and it says gravity is so different on the sun compared to Earth, blah, 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 blah. I won't read through it, but this is the response we got for this query. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense, but that's as easy as it is to create a model and then use the model by selecting from the table. Again, we're selecting the column that we want. There could be multiple columns. In this case, it's just one from the MindsDB GPT model, where, and then we pass the two variables that we required in that kind of prompt statement. Okay, so that is the basics on how MindsDB works. Again, I'm sure that this is not quite crystal clear yet, but as we go into this next example, you'll see how we can make something a bit more custom. So currently, we have a GPT model, but this is not really chatbot ready, right? It's just giving us whatever response would happen from OpenAI. We want to have a more custom model that has a personality, that's speaking in a certain tone of voice, etc. So let me copy in a new block here that's going to create a more custom model for us. And I think I need to just fix something here with the quotations. Okay, so let's make this a bit smaller so we can read all of this. We are saying, create model, mindsdb.snoopstein model. Now we can rename this, but this is the one that was used in the guide, so I'm just pasting it in for right now. Again, we want to predict some kind of response using, and then the engine is equal to OpenAI. The max tokens is 300, which is the max number of kind of input that we can give to this this model. Then we can have an OpenAI API key. Again, we don't need that. There'll be a default one provided to us. we have the model name, and then the prompt template now is different. The prompt template is essentially what we're passing to OpenAI when it's going to make the prediction, right? So it's going to take our input message, which is the text, from the author username, and then whatever we describe here, it's going to do. So in this case, we're saying in less than 550 characters, write a Twitter response to the author username in the following format. Dear at whatever the username is, respond a rhyme as if you were Snoop Dogg, but also were as smart as Albert Einstein. Still explain things like Snoop Dogg would. Do not mention that you are part Einstein. Okay, so there you go. This is giving the description for the voice or like the tone of the AI. So we can change this, and we can also make it so it's not necessarily responding to a tweet. Maybe we want to respond to a website message or something else, right? So you can kind of adjust this however you want. So give me 1 second. I'm going to write my own kind of custom prompt here, and then we will continue. All right, so I've just written a new prompt here where I say respond in less than 150 words to the text from the author username in the following format. Greetings, whatever the author is. Respond as if you are an alien from the future that is wiser, smarter, and more intellectual than the person asking you a question. Openly judge the stupidity of the question and mock the person asking it. Make sure to still give the correct answer. Do not swear or be inappropriate for the YouTube video. Now, I'll actually change the name here to be the alien model. I thought this would be kind of funny, but you get the idea. You can kind of create whatever type of bot you want by writing in how you want the bot to respond or what you want it to do. You can be as creative here as you like. So let's run this. And you can see that now we're going to start generating this model. Again, if we wanted to check the status, we could select it. So if I go here, select asterisk from MindsDB model, right? So we could copy that, take this and paste it in. And notice here that it's going to tell us the status. So let me move this up a bit, and the status is complete. So now let's ask the model the exact same question that we asked the other one and see what kind of difference in response we get. All right, so I've just pasted in the query here. Let's run this and see what response we get here from our alien model. All right, so we've got our response here. Feel free to read through it. I'll just read the first paragraph. Greetings, some user. Oh, how quaint and primitive your understanding of celestial mechanics must be. It is quite amusing, really. Nevertheless, I shall enlighten you on the matter. Feel free to keep reading, but already we can see that it's kind of got the gist of what I was asking it to do. And now we have a custom chatbot. All right, so now you might be wondering, how do we actually use this chatbot? Well, if you continue with that guide that I've linked in the description, it's going to show you the steps to actually deploy this to Twitter. Now, I don't want to put this on Twitter because I don't want a chatbot running on my Twitter. I don't want to make one. You guys can do that if you want. There's a few steps, again, from that guide. But I will show you now how we would, say, get some different tweets and then use those tweets to generate responses. So we're going to essentially join this kind of query with all of the different tweets or different textual things we might want to respond to get multiple responses at once. So I'll show you that, and then I'm going to show you how we can use this from, say, a Python script so you can actually get outside of this kind of MindsDB editor and still be able to use your trained model. All right, so first thing I need to do here, because I want to show you how we connect this with Twitter, is I'm going to create a new database. And this is going to contain all of the tweets from the MindsDB Twitter account. That's just because we're in kind of the demo instance, so it automatically has authorization for that. If you wanted to get your own tweets, then you would have to connect to Twitter by going here to add data, and you have to give like read access, I think, from a Twitter developer account. It's a bit more complicated. Again, it's kind of mentioned in that guide. I'm not going to run through it in the video because I know a lot of you don't want to do that, or you can't actually follow along with the steps. So I'm going to say create database from my Twitter with engine equals Twitter. Okay, let's do that. So now you can see we have our Twitter database. Now that we have that, we want to view a bunch of different tweets. Now I'm just going to use the query that the guide has here. And what this essentially does is select all of the tweets that mention the Snoopstein bot. Okay, so this is exactly what they did to make that bot. They said select the ID created at author username text from mytwitter.tweets, which is a table we have inside of here, where the query is equal to, and then this is a query that you can write based on the Twitter API. Again, not going to get into that too much. Essentially, we're querying, looking for any of these ats or any of these hashtags and the fact that we have some retweet. We're also going to make sure that this was created after this date, and we're limiting the result to 20. So if I run this here, we get a bad request. Start time must be after this date. Okay, let me just change this to be 1 day forward. And notice if I make this a bit larger, that we now get a bunch of tweets, gives us the time they were created, the ID, the author username, and then what all the tweets are. And they all have the @Snoopstein, what would you call it, filter applied to them, right? So we're only getting those ones. Okay, so now that we've gotten all of these, what we could do is join this response or join this result with our model table and then get a response to every single one of the tweets that mentions this bot. So let me show you how we would do that. All right, so I've just pasted in another SQL query here. Notice that we're just selecting all of the stuff that we need from our Twitter or tweets table. We're calling this table T, by the way. That's why we have that here. We're then saying join MindsDB dot, in this case, it's going to be our alien model because that's what I called it. If you changed your name, you would change it here. And since we're using the MindsDB Twitter account, I'm just going to keep this filter. So we're going to imagine that anyone who tagged Snoopstein really was referencing our alien bot here. And I'm just going to change this created at date to be 22. For some reason, we need to, we can only query tweets within like the past week, which is why we need this. And in this case, I'm limiting the number of responses to 4. So again, we're joining two different tables. So we have the one table that has all of our responses, or sorry, all of our like original tweets. And then we're going to join that with a query to our AI table, which will then generate all of the responses to all of those tweets. So let's make this a bit larger and let's run this. It's going to take a few seconds to get all of the results here, just because, again, OpenAI is like very heavily rate limited right now, and it can be pretty slow. All right, so finally, we have generated some responses. You can see that we have the input text here. So, for example, sub for sub YouTube channels, follow for follow, and then it comes here, greetings, Earthling. Obviously, it's our alien bot now, and it goes in and responds. So I think that's pretty much all I needed to show you in terms of creating the AI model, using the AI model. Now what I want to show you is how we get outside of this platform and use this, say, from code. Because this is great and all, but if you wanted to deploy this somewhere, obviously you need to hook into this model and use it from some kind of front end or back end or wherever it is that you're going to use it. So what I'm going to do now is open up a Python file and show you very quickly how we can connect to our instance here and use this AI table that we've generated. All right, so I've just loaded up a Python file here. I've already written the code just to save us some time. But you can see that what I'm doing is I'm using my SQL connector. Now, this is a module in Python that allows you to connect to a SQL database. I also am then loading an environment variable file just so I don't share with you what my username and my password is. But notice that all I need to do is have information about the host, which is my cloud.mindsdb.com, my user, which is simply the email that you use for your MindsDB account, the password, same thing, it's the password that you used, and then the port, which is always going to be 3306. Then I create what's known as a cursor object. This is just how you execute queries when you're using the MySQL library. And then I say cursor.execute, and I execute the same SQL query that I did on the cloud here from Python. So select response from mindsdb.alienModel, where the author username is MindsDB, and the text is who is the best YouTuber. Now you can put whatever text you want here, and obviously you could dynamically generate this and create like kind of a chatbot prompt here in your terminal if you wanted to do that. Then what I need to do is loop through my cursor because it's actually an iterable object. You can parse this in a few different ways, but for now I'm just doing it very simply, and it's going to give us the response. So to prove to you that this works, I'm going to go here and run my code, Python main.py, and you'll see that in a few seconds it's going to generate a response for me based on this prompt, who is the best YouTuber. So there you go. We got our response. Greetings, Earthlings, MindsDB. Your inquiry about the best YouTuber is quite amusing as it demonstrates the limited scope of your intellect. In our advanced future, we have transcended such trivial matters. However, I shall indulge your primitive curiosity. The concept of best is subjective and varies from individual to individual. Blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. Farewell, Earthling. So obviously you can read through this response on your own. You can parse it. You can do whatever you want with it. But the idea is that now we've gone from the cloud to our actual code. I've shown you that in 18 lines of code, we're able to actually connect to that AI model, query it, and use it. And even though we might not treat that as like a production model, it's pretty close for what we're doing here. So with that said, I think I'm going to wrap up the video now. Obviously, what I showed you is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to using MindsDB and creating machine learning models. You can do all kinds of amazing stuff with your own data on MindsDB, like regression, classification, more advanced models, predictions, anything that you can imagine, you can pretty much create on there. They have all kinds of very easy to understand documentation and tutorials directly on the website, so I encourage you to follow along with those. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and you got some knowledge and value on how easy it is to actually use stuff like OpenAI and GPT-4 and how you can take advantage of that in your own projects. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in another one.